Hi, South Bend. This is Republican candidate for mayor Sean Haas, coming to you live from South Bend. I'm here today with Gene Eyster, former South Bend police officer. Retired back
Yes.
in July 2019. So thank you for your service. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Can you can you tell the viewers a little bit about how long you served, how long you've lived in South Bend, and some of the roles that you served while you were on the police department?
Well, I started out as a cadet within the department, spent 2.5 years doing that before I got on. Sworn on as a full-time officer in 1974. When I retired, it was just shy of 45 years, 44 years, 8 months, something like that, of active duty. Assignments, I pretty much did everything within the police department. Started out initially in crash investigations, went from there to a tactical unit, served in SWAT, diagrammer, scuba diver, then transferred, went in undercover and worked in narcotics for a period of time. Came back from there, went into the investigative division, handled areas of burglary, bank robbery. Then I moved into the major crimes unit, where we handled mostly aggravated assaults. From there, I went into the Detective Bureau in general, and then to the traffic section again. And when I left, I was a lieutenant in charge of special events and crash investigations.
So what was, if you could pick your favorite, what was your favorite role that you served while part of the South Bend Police Department?
I enjoy traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to maybe help people, educate them so that you don't have the accidents. There's a multitude of things that you can do to change people's behavior, not just enforcement and punishment by fines and tickets. So I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed the period of time that I had at homicide. It was very challenging, sometimes tough dealing with family members when you don't have the answers to provide to them.
Yeah, for sure. Traffic, we were talking earlier about the traffic unit and the lack thereof. And I mean, can you kind of speak to the importance of not just, keeping people safe while they're driving, but other aspects of the traffic unit that really help the city out?
Well, you have to understand that traffic, anytime that you have a crash, there's a financial burden in addition to possible injuries or even deaths. So there's quite a bit. Dollars climb pretty high. Everybody drives, everybody has to have insurance, and your insurance is based on the number of accidents that happen within your jurisdiction. So it has a big impact on how the city's looked at.
Do you guys feel like the traffic unit also helps you, get bad actors off the street, guns off the street, drugs off the streets in a more proactive way?
Yeah, it does. It gives you a chance. Number one, you're seen by the public, so and helps to deter some of the actions that happen. When you see red lights on, no one's going to do a robbery or break in,
Right.
as long as there's a policeman present.
Right.
It's also a way to identify some of these individuals. There's very few armed robbers or burglars that walk to do what they're going to do. They're taking vehicles.
Right.
So their mode of transportation, that gives you a chance to intercept them in a lot of different ways. And you find people when on warrants, you're drunk drivers, things of that nature.
Well, I mean, and that's something that South Bend hasn't had for quite some time now, right? How many years has it been since the traffic unit's been active?
It's probably been about 15 years since we had any kind of
Wow.
formalized traffic unit.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I'm planning to hopefully remedy once I get into office. I
Now,
think.
not saying that the patrol officers don't assume that duty.
Right.
But this would alleviate that burden of them having to do that portion, or a good share of it.
Right, it's a dedicated group that's their
Yes.
focus.
Police work has evolved to a point where almost all of it is specialization. Each aspect, you can't just have one general person. You can't have a builder come in and do your plumbing, your electric, and your carpentry.
Unless you want problems.
Yeah, everybody's got to be a specialist. You can know a little bit about a lot,
Right,
but you don't know a lot about different areas.
right.
So,
No, I think you make a really good point. So one thing that I think has been more in the public's kind of purview here is trust between the police department and the community. And so what do you think are some ways that the police department or the community or city administration, what are some ways that you think that would be helpful in building that trust back up?
I think the biggest shortcoming, in my personal opinion, is education. People don't understand exactly what transpires in the role as a police officer, how we do what we do, the tools that we use, or the manner that we use them. So one of the things that the departments would have to do, and the officers, is to be more open and to show people what we do, as opposed to just going out there and doing it.
Right.
And that I think that would have a big impact. The patrol officers are doing a very good job of interacting when they have the opportunity. But again, you can only give them so many duties during so many hours. And some of these officers and the newer officers don't quite have the answers or the expertise to explain to people why we're doing that. They're still in their infancy as far as their careers.
Okay.
So I think we need to develop some system, whether it be a smaller unit or some identified individuals that are knowledgeable that can go out to these individuals that may be the director of a program or the head of an organization or a clergyman, and explain to them why we do and ask them to carry that back.
Right. So more like the community policing like we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
And we also spoke about the 14-week course that the city or the South Bend Police Department offers, and you'd like to see kind of more people take that course just to kind of really understand.
It's a real eye-opener to the people that take it. They'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It covers all the areas of the police department and kind of gives them that same insight that we just discussed. But that's something I think that we could probably increase and run more often than once or twice a year. There is the interest, and as I said, you could pick individuals who can carry that message back to their groups, and it grows its.
Yeah, you said
from
the trainers become, or the trained become the
Train the
trainers.
trainers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's I mean, I feel like every city employee should have that class, and like you said, pastors I think would be a really good one. Business leaders you had mentioned as well. I think those are people who would definitely benefit because, like you said, they can spread that message out to the people that they know.
And other department heads and positions within the city administration itself.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
They're busy with their duties, and they don't understand what police officers do on a daily basis.
Okay. My next question has to do more with relationship between the police and the administration. Why do you think, and I mean, do you think the city needs to go in a new direction as far as leadership? Do you think that the relationship between the police and the city administration is strained? And if so, what kind of underlies that whole situation?
I think it's been strained, and it's because there's a number of different areas that have brought this about. Some of it is the duties that have been placed on the officers. It's hard to describe what these officers are going through on the street today. I mean, you're a coach, you're a mentor, you're the dad, you're the mom, you feel so many hats.
Right.
You're not really sure, and there's some, but not the degree of recognition or appreciation the officers feel coming from the administration to kind of motivate them. Nobody goes into police work for the thank yous or the money.
Right.
I mean, it's always a call of duty, and you want to do things to help the public and help the city, but you do get worn down.
Yeah.
And that positive reinforcement makes a big difference.
Yeah, we talked about that just kind of sometimes hearing a thank you or a letter of commendation coming from the city leadership would be something that would, at least validate that they're doing their job the right way and give them confidence to kind of keep carrying on. So yeah, I agree 100%. Fourth largest city in Indiana, 39th in pay. Do you think, we talked about, public service, you don't get into it for money to get rich, but I think everybody, at least from my perspective, is still motivated by incentive.
Yeah,
so how can we do a better job of helping out those officers?
It's not just on the scale of the pay.
Right.
There's incidentals that could be added. Whether it be time off to be with your family because of your amount of overtime that you're asked to work. Money's not the objective, but still you want to provide for your family and you want to have a quality of life that everybody else does.
Yeah.
And the problem that we're having with some of the recruits is that coming here, they would make far less than they would at other agencies. Agencies around the central part of the state are paying considerably more or have additional benefits, whether it be a couple additional vacation days, a couple additional sick days, whether it be changing of the shifts on a regular basis. Little things like that can make a big difference in your environment and what you take home. The job is only 8 hours of it. The rest is your personal time and your family time.
Yeah, and you've got to decide what you want to do with it, because everybody, I think, could benefit from a little more money in their pocket. So, overtime is something they always want to consider, but you got to balance it with your home life, in your work life. So that's a tough thing that we ask, I think, of these officers. Do you still talk with a lot of members of the South Bend Police Department, and can you speak to the level of morale, if so?
I still communicate with quite a few of the guys. That's one thing is when I left, I said I didn't want to lose the camaraderie. Having been there were guys that, when I left, there were guys that I coached in Little League. There's sons of, I worked with their dads, I worked with their grandpas. So there's a lot of guys there that's my family.
Right.
You know, so I didn't want to separate from that. The morale has taken quite a hit in the last few months. Obviously, anytime that you have a major crisis or a situation, you know, everybody comes to the forefront, and being dissected or examined time and time again, that tends to bear on the guys with the overtime and the rate of risk. So morale has dropped considerably.
Yeah, and I think from a civilian's perspective and someone who wants to be a good partner for the police department, I want to make sure that they know that they're supported, and that that the city is going to do everything we can to increase morale and make sure that they feel like they're appreciated.
Let me just say that I think all aspects of the department could use an internal examination.
Okay.
You know, I will openly say that I agree with those that have made the statement that the South Bend Police Department is probably one of the best by far. Through my duties, I've traveled throughout the state and have interaction with a lot of other departments and agencies from the Ohio and Kentucky border all the way up to the Michigan border. Our department by far is one of the best. The men and women are talented, they're very professional, they're very well trained and equipped. There's just some little nuances that need to be polished a little bit, and I think if those things were examined and some meaningful changes were made, I think it would be beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, I think leadership is probably the most important part in any organization, because they're the ones who set the standards, and they should hold themselves to those standards if they're going to hold the people underneath to them. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore. Gene, thank you for talking with me. I really appreciate it. So. Gene Eyster, former South Bend police officer, and we do appreciate your service, and I really appreciate you sitting down and talking to me about this. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.